Logan, you have a chance.
No, Ed.
What do you mean I have it?
You have a good chance.
No. I'm going to win.
I know.
I told him
Before
yesterday.
I die, I will be president of the United States. And honestly, I will probably be a very good president.
Gonna be you? Yeah, maybe in like 20 years. We'll see.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
Run for prez?
Yeah, I want to try to make a ton of money and then just like give it all away right before I announce my campaign. Like,
I thought you were gonna say buy the presidency.
no, like imagine
Make a ton
I
of
bought
money.
the White House.
Imagine I have like $10 billion and then I just give it all away and I'm just like, I can't be bought. I had it all, give it all away. Like, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, once again from the dystopian monarchy of the United Kingdom. Can't wait until our new king is crowned this week, but today we are talking about celebrities in politics. Now, the UK is a place where celebrities and politics don't go together as much as the United States, because the British class system ensures that most people who become Prime Minister are very, very wealthy, go to the best schools, go to Eton, go to Oxbridge. There isn't really a place for just some random celebrity to become Prime Minister because of all the classism, bureaucracy and stuff like that. But America is a bit more unique in that you can run for the nomination of a political party even if you haven't really been a part of that political party, and that allows certain celebrities to actually become president of the United States. And that has happened 2 times in recent history with the Hollywood actor from the 1940s and 50s, Ronald Reagan, and of course, reality TV star Donald Trump. Now, Ronald Reagan is a bit more interesting in that he actually kind of gave up his acting career to have a political career, where Donald Trump one day just decided that he wanted to run for president seriously. He had ran in the past, in like 2000, I think, but in 2015, he decided, you know, I actually want to become president. And through the fame and through the goodwill, kind of, they'd accumulated, they actually did become president, and also, they're 2 of the worst presidents ever. Ronald Reagan is up there with George Bush in probably being like the worst president ever. But you know, Donald Trump was also like a terrible president, so it's not really set a good precedent for celebrities turning their celeb career into become politicians. But we seemingly have that brewing for Gen Z in the next generation, because Mr. Beast and Logan Paul have seriously said they want to become president when they're older. And just listening to them talk about it is very interesting. And also, I want to use an example in like recent history, and I made a whole video on this. We're going to talk about at the end. Matthew McConaughey was mulling over running for the governor of Texas before deciding against it. And when he was interviewed about this, he really couldn't handle most questions because he said he wanted to be aggressively centrist. He didn't even say what political party he would align with, right? But he was trying to base his whole campaign on vibes and goodwill, and he was really scared to take a firm stance on anything. And that's what it feels like with these 2 as well, in that they think just because they're famous in one way or another, that might translate to like political popularity. And we're just going to listen to these guys talk about like why they want to be president, and we're going to just talk about them both as individuals, thinking about like, why do these people care? Do they want to make people's lives better? Or is it just a complete ego thing like it was for Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump in many ways? But before we go any further, please like the video, and in the comments let me know who is the worst celebrity turned politician, because of course I'm talking about America and Britain, but around the world there are other examples of celebrities in certain countries becoming politicians. I mean, Jerry Springer just died, so sometimes you have politicians like he was becoming like reality TV celebrities. But let me know down in the comments. Also, follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter, but also on Instagram. Instagram is a better place to interact with me, and I also posted about all my travels around Asia, and that is archived in the highlight reels on my profile page, so go check that out if you're interested. And also consider becoming a patron. I'm trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible, and the benefits include getting access to exclusive content, the Discord server, and my Nintendo Switch friend code. Also check out the subreddit and my second channel down in the description. So like I said, we have 2 popular YouTubers who both have said they want to be president when they're older. Now, I'm probably going to spend more of this video on Mr. Beast because he's both like tackled societal issues in some way with his charity work, but has also paid more lip service to becoming president. Where with Logan Paul, his whole celebrity is based around like being a YouTuber, a boxer, a wrestler. It seems a lot more he's doing it for clout and fame, and that's primarily the reason why. While I do think everything Mr. Beast does is to that end, I guess he has more of a history of tackling like political issues, like people being hungry or trying to tackle climate change with Team Trees and Team Seas, which are just completely useless. So let's talk about Logan Paul first. So he actually did a whole podcast titled this, but I flicked through it and couldn't even find the clip of him actually saying it properly. But a good article I was reading put together everything he's basically said in it. And you probably expect, right, there isn't much substance. So from the Mirror, Logan Paul doubles down on plan to become president with role for brother Jake. YouTuber boxer Paul has previously outlined his plans to run for the presidency, believing that the country needs a leader who is more authentic and creative. He will have to hold off until 2032 to do so, as the US law states that the minimum age to run for president is 35. Speaking at the Future of Everything festival with the Wall Street Journal, Paul said, "I, Logan Paul, will be running for president in 2032. When asked what role Jake would have, Paul laughed and replied he's the Secretary of Defense. Speaking of his presidency plans earlier this year, he said on the MMA Hour, "I'm 26 and I'll be eligible to run for president when I'm 35. That gives me 9 more years to become the best version of myself possible and to learn as much as I can about people, culture and society, where we fall short and where we are strong. I just think I'll be a good leader one day, and I think the presidential spot needs a fresh take. I think the country could use a person who's a little bit more nuanced, more innovative, and authentic. Personally, I have trouble watching because I know that you're reading off a teleprompter and the speech was written for you by a campaign manager, and I'm not like that." Jake also plans to give his brother's presidency hopes a run for his money, previously stating the pair would flip a coin to decide who gets to be president. I might be president, he might. I think we're going to flip a coin who gets to be the president versus Vice President. Logan is more politically correct and he's likable, where I'm the villain. So obviously it's an old saying that like in America, anyone can be president. Of course it's not true, but if you have enough money and you hit the right moment like Donald Trump, yeah, idiots can become president. And it seems like this is totally based on narcissism because they're talking about, I have to mature and learn about the problems in the country. But yeah, I also want to run for president when I'm 2032. Wouldn't it be good if you kind of like knew about the problems first? Like there are lots of young people in Congress now. Like aren't there like 23, 24-year-old people in Congress? Like they didn't need to wait until they matured and figured out the problems in society, because if they wanted to run, they did it based on a passion for helping people, their own political ideology. But there is no political ideology here with Logan Paul. And Logan Paul just doesn't seem like the most empathetic person. He's had a history of like crazy controversy. Sometimes he gives decent takes on stuff, but it's very easy to change his mind. He just seems like Donald Trump in the way that he just listens to the last person he spoke to, and that pretty much dictates what he thinks on like political, social issues. And people like Logan Paul are just these capitalist celebs, right? All he cares about is making money. All he cares about is fame. He's driven by crazy narcissism. And even more so with Mr. Beast, Logan Paul has just grown up being a Disney Channel star, being a YouTuber. He's pretty much never known not being that. And even old testimony from people who went to school with him said he was a terrible person. Both of them were massive bullies, just not nice guys at all. So yeah, you can see here there are plenty of people like Logan Paul in that they're just famous, so they talk about running for president, right? That is really, really common. Think of like Kanye West as well. Think of so many people throughout the years who say, I want to run for president or I want to run for political office. And to be honest, they're not even really serious. I wouldn't even take this very seriously. Like even saying about making Jake Paul Secretary of Defense or like flipping a coin about who will run for president. He's probably such a knucklehead. Maybe he does think when he reaches 50 or in 2032 he will consider it. This guy will just be so bored by politics. But now let's move on to Mr. Beast, because I found this more interesting because of course Mr. Beast has done a lot of charity work which tackles issues which are caused by politicians, caused by society, homelessness, poverty, people being hungry. He has a whole charity channel where he has food banks and stuff like that, where he's given shoes to South African children. I'm going to talk about my problems about that in a sec, but he's been speaking about this for a while, and I want to play you a clip from a podcast. I'm going to talk about it before talking about like recent controversy where Mr. Beast has been criticized for his content. I've been one of them. And we'll talk about if he's really ready to become president. Also been in controversy lately with the right wing because he stood up for one of his transgender friends. So basically in 2020, in the run-up to the election, he said, seeing how divided America is makes me want to consider running for president one day. Let's just give everyone $1 million. That should fix most of our problems. I was messing a bit here, but obviously he has good friends like Ted Cruz, who he plays poker with regularly. He also really wants to be Elon Musk. He's constantly said this throughout the years. And, you know, a lot of people have said he should be president. I guess, little children maybe. Mr. Beast should run for president of the US in 2036. He definitely could. He's very popular, and this country could use him behind the wheel. Homelessness, distrust, alienation, division. If anyone can fix America, it's him. Do you guys think Mr. Beast can one day become president? Precedent for a celebrity becoming president already? If polled, probably around 90 to 95% liked, I'm gonna doubt that there, will win the young vote and convince people to get out and vote. In 10 years, when he can run, he will probably be at 600 million subscribers. Biggest brand and outreach. Older people will die out when he's going to run. I don't think that is going to definitely fall into Mr. Beast's favour. But anyway, before we talk about the issues of his content and his general politics, I want to play you this podcast from TMG Studios. And he talks about being president. And these guys speaking to him seem absolutely thrilled. Like, it's very palpable, their excitement at him running for president. Now, I'm joking. Like, it's very subdued. But let's listen to part of his podcast where he talks about wanting to be president.
Is it gonna be you?
Oh my god.
Is it gonna be you?
Yeah, maybe in like 20 years. We'll see.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
Run for prez?
Yeah, I want to try to make a ton of money and then just like give it all away right before I announce my campaign. Like,
I thought you were gonna say buy the presidency.
no, like imagine
Make a ton
I
of
bought
money.
the White House.
imagine I have like $10 billion and then I just give it all away and I'm just like, I can't be bought. I had it all, give it all away. Like, that's pretty powerful.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And then instead of like giving into lobbyists or agendas, I just like do whatever's good for the American people. Sounds like it'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
That would be. I want it to happen because that would be just the most insane story. You could actually very reasonably do it. So many people would know your face.
Yeah. I think I could,
Like
to be
from
honest.
time. Yeah.
I think when
100%.
I'm 40, because I do think like presidents are just getting way old. Like, especially by then, like a lot of the older people in America will just die out, and there'll be more people around our age and stuff. I think like we're due for younger presidents. I'm tired of them always being in their 70s.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fun to run when I'm like 40 or something like that.
Damn.
We'll see.
You think you'd beat Logan? Because he talks about running.
You know, I said that on a different podcast. They said the exact same thing.
So very compelling argument there. Give away all my money and do what's good for the American people. Like, I'm very convinced he's going to be a good president there. And like, these guys ask some very tough questions about where he stands on political issues, and he's not going to spend any money on agendas. What does that even mean? You're not going to spend any money on your own agenda? You're just going to give away money and say, vote for me president? And I think he's massively overestimating how famous he is, because, yeah, YouTube fame is one thing. And I will admit, Americans like YouTubers more than other countries. But that does not translate to politics. And also, he's assuming because people are going to be younger, the electorate is going to be younger, they'll give him an easier ride. I'd hate to break it to Mr. Beast, but I think as people get older, his audience, they're going to realise the problems of his content, because most people who are saying bad things about Mr. Beast are like my age or younger, right? Gen Z are very switched on to political issues. I don't think Gen Z give people like Mr. Beast a really easy pass. It's more like the generation after them. When they grow up, they'll be even more woke than Gen Z. And I don't think people are going to fall for this stuff. I gave away all my money, I'm running for president, and do what's good for the American people. It doesn't sound like you really care at all. It sounds like you're just doing it for your own personal narcissism. Now, this is just, of course, one clip, and he has said a lot of times, I should run for president, blah, 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 but he's never actually elaborated why. I did see another podcast where he said he only wanted to run for president. He didn't want to be governor. He didn't want to be mayor of a town. He just wanted to be president, right? Not because he has a very set in stone political ideology. Again, it's just for the narcissism. And this kind of ties back to a point. So Mr. Beast has actually been pretty afraid to get political, which sounds weird for a guy who seems pretty sure he's going to be running for president in like 15, 16 years. But what was interesting is that what kind of made him come out and say something political for the first time was the crazy backlash he's been getting recently. Now, of course, he had that video where he said he cured people's blindness. He didn't actually cure blindness. He treated people with partial blindness. You know, still a good thing to do in a vacuum. I had my criticism of it in terms of like this, you know, this poverty content, which he seems to like doing. And he got a load of backlash for it, and he really couldn't understand. He was saying like, I'm one of the good people, gives away all my money, and people still hate me. And then he actually wrote this about politics for once. I don't understand why curable blindness is a thing. Why don't governments step in and help? Even if you're thinking purely from a financial standpoint, it's hard to see. They don't see how they don't ROI on taxes from people being able to work again. So that is one of the few political things he's come out and said, basically talking about the systemic issues. But why people have been hating on Mr. Beast recently is that he's taken these problems caused by poverty and he's making them into viral video content to make his brand bigger, in some cases to make himself more money, because this blindness one wasn't done on the charity channel, while the one about South African kids getting shoes was done on the charity channel, which allegedly puts all the profits back into that to keep doing charity. So people are like, you know, this shouldn't exist, you shouldn't make content on it, and also, Mr. Beast, you don't ever even talk about the systemic issues because you don't want to get political. You just make it seem like an abstract thing where people just, for some reason or another, can't get a very basic treatment which people in other countries, even like neighboring countries to the US, can get for free without issues. You're treating this in like very poor countries and the United States while not raising awareness. And that is my main criticism of Mr. Beast as well, is that he often takes the aesthetics of poverty to make viral content while not drawing attention to the issues. And why do you think this guy would have your best interest at heart running for president? So in previous videos, I don't want to replay too much stuff, but there was one viral video where he went around a prison, talked about it being mental warfare while getting cozy with the guards. Again, if you're running for president, don't you think maybe you should be talking about the issues of that in terms of like mass incarceration? And you could maybe raise awareness, because he went to prison for this challenge for like 52 hours, found out how brutal it was, but then basically said nothing else about it. It was just a background to his video. You have older videos where he says homeless people don't mind him exploiting them for content. You have other videos where this guy wins a game show, and then for some reason he shows the poverty this guy lives in while him and his co-host talk about they're really happy they could give him $1 million, which he actually won fairly in a game show contest. And like I said, he never talks about the systemic issues. So am I supposed to believe he is becoming president, or he wants to become president because he really cares about everyone? Or again, is it like Logan Paul, just about narcissism, but the only thing he has more credibility is that he's done some charity work, but it all feels very narcissistic, ego-driven, and exploitative, even if some people do get the benefits of it. Now, another thing I want to talk about, and we're going to talk about Matthew McConaughey at the end, because he's another example of this, is a lot of these bro YouTubers, Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, they don't like to get too political in terms of being partisan, because you don't really know what either of these people think about politics generally. Logan Paul, which is weird, I'd say maybe a bit more, because he seems to, on his podcast, sometimes give like takes which could be interpreted as more left-leaning, where Mr. Beast has been very careful not to say anything about politics, really, where you could say like, oh, you're supporting conservatives, you're supporting liberals, you're supporting leftists. But recently I made a video on this. He was getting an insane backlash from conservatives because one of his co-hosts, Chris Tyson, is on HRT, and lots of people, of course, in the American culture war are saying he's exposing children to dangerous gender ideology. And because Mr. Beast said one tweet defending the transphobia aimed at Chris Tyson, this made conservatives like absolutely lose their mind, right? So Mr. Beast has been very careful not to really wade into political issues, but even one tweet saying transphobia aimed at their friend set off the conservative side. And I really don't think we're going to see Mr. Beast double down on this take too much, because he's seen the hate it's generated. Like, Mr. Beast didn't take this opportunity to talk about the political situation, which allows this crazy backlash to his friend. He doesn't want to say any of that because he's thinking about his brand. And why I'm cynical about him being like a trans ally, which I spoke about in my other video, is because he knows that's detrimental to his brand, and he's not satisfied with being insanely rich, insanely popular. He could be those things and then advocate for trans rights, but is he going to do that? And will he do that running for president? Because these shouldn't be hard questions, but these are the hard questions you have to answer if you're running for political office. Like Mr. Beast, what do you think about access for healthcare for transgender teens, right? A lot of us on the left obviously agree with that, but on the right, they're banning that across the country. Mr. Beast, what do you think of that? Do you think he would ever answer that question? He wouldn't. If you asked him about defense spending, if you asked him about foreign policy, if you asked him about the economy, taxes, all these things, he's going to have to take a specific position on them. And when you're basing your whole political campaign on, I'm going to give away money and people are going to recognize me and the voters will be young, so maybe I can win, you're not dealing with the hard issues. You're not dealing with things people actually care about. And based on your history of content, I don't think you actually care about poverty at all. You just care about exploiting poverty and poverty as a backdrop to make you look even better, because based on video evidence, That's what you've done, because nothing you do in this realm seems sincere at all. It seems like you do it for content. And if people benefit off that, if people get some sort of surgery to fix their partial blindness, they're going to be grateful for it. But do I think you care about partial blindness? Do I think you care about people being hungry? Do I think you care about the systemic causes of these things? Or do I think you do these things to make yourself look better? I'm a cynical person, and I've said forever covering this guy that I do think that. So do I think Mr. Beast would be a good president? No, because what does he even believe in? Doing charity work? I mean, some of the most terrible people in recent history did loads of charity work. Doesn't mean they should run for president, especially when you feel like there is a cynical motivation for it, because he's filming everything. Now again, will Mr. Beast run for president one day? I actually kind of doubt it, to be honest. I actually kind of doubt it. But I think he's realizing right now with this right-wing backlash, he barely even said anything, and they're going after him like crazy. But then the left wing don't like him either. So I think the only way he could even run is as some sort of centrist, like maybe a centrist Democrat, possibly a centrist Republican if they even exist anymore. But I think a good example of what this will look like is of Matthew McConaughey mulling over if he should run for the governor of Texas. Now, apparently due to polling, he was pretty popular, but most people didn't know what he believed about anything. Because like Mr. Beast and kind of Logan Paul, he never said anything political, really. Like, the only thing we knew about Matthew McConaughey was he did some good things about, like, gun regulation, and he also kind of spoke about, like, his religion. So a lot of, you know, conservative Christians liked him for that and stuff, and he made a speech about God when he won his Oscar for Best Actor. But other than that, he hasn't really said anything. Such a good approval rating due to that fact, because both Republicans and Democrats liked him, because you can project what you believe onto him. And of course, he has done charity work in the past, but him as a person, him as a personality running for president, or in this case, running for the governor of Texas, you need a little more than that. So it's actually kind of awkward, because I featured this in an older video. He did an interview with the New York Times, and they asked him some very specific questions, but it wasn't like the most hard-hitting questions. It wasn't something like super controversial, potentially, and he really couldn't answer. He kept talking about being radically centrist, and it all just came off as a guy who was too afraid to take any political positions, because he knew once he started taking these political positions, he would alienate a certain group of people, which is what Mr. Beast would do as well. It's all good doing vague work of saving the planet, charity, feeding the hungry, curing the blind, more like abstract concepts. But if it has no ideological framing, people can just project whatever they want onto that, and they can project any political positions they want onto that. So to prove my point, I think this is what would happen if Mr. Beast decided he actually wanted to run for any political office. So here's Matthew McConaughey floundering when asked actual questions.
And they would see how there will be choices that I would be considered left on. There would be choices in places I land where I would be considered right on. That's why I've also been leaning on this very centrist. I think our country, state needs to be aggressively centric now. It's a daring place to go. It's a radical move right now.
Do you think you can do that?
It's really a relational position to the left and the right.
Do you think you can do it in one of those parties, or you think it's got to be a third party? I mean, this is.
It's a good question. It's a good question. You know, one side of the coin would be, oh, you got to do the beauty contest. You got to go with one of the big two. With that comes a lot of, for me, there'd be some constraints, either side. You know, then you go to, you open up the idea of a third party. Interesting. Okay. You're coming in as an underdog. That's for damn sure. You know, I don't know. If anything, if it was both parties, I would work outside of their typical steadfast lock lead pipes in places they stand.
I got a couple quick more questions. One, and this one may be hard actually. COP26 is happening right now. This is the climate change conference in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Oil, energy. It's happening in Texas in a big way. What do you do?
Seems to me that we do two things, or two general things. We've talked about decreasing emissions. And then I'm also very interested in what my friend Mark Benioff talks about we got to plant more trees, contain more carbon. So it seems to be those are two things: the deforestation That's a great thing to agree on. We've been kind of bastardizing the force for quite some time. You know, the amount of emissions at all.
Would you try to reduce drilling or fracking or other things in Texas?
I don't know. I don't know to go into that. Speaking of Texas, I'm talking about just worldwide.
Right.
I mean, again, does drilling need regulations? Absolutely. Does it still come down to when culturally, much socially acceptable about what we do daily? Those are the choices that's the Army. That's how you make a huge difference.
So talking about being aggressively centrist, talking about if he was in either political party, maybe a third party, he can't answer the question. What party are you going to run in? You're not going to run as a third party because you're not going to win. And if you want to win, you have to choose a party. Matthew McConaughey should answer. Who are you going to run with? Democrats or Republicans? And then when asked about climate change, oil drilling, everything like that, that's clearly kind of like a partisan split, because more Democrats and more liberal people would want to either change the face of Texas oil drilling, so they would take the profits and invest it in green energy, or maybe they'd start banning certain oil drilling in Texas itself and focus on clean energy. Matthew McConaughey just says plant trees. Him and Mr. Beast are like kindred spirits. He's saying plant trees. Not really sure about, there should be regulation, but unspecific. Doesn't really give us an answer. And I think that is what it boils down to, because Matthew McConaughey wanted to be governor of Texas, maybe because he does care about people fundamentally, but he doesn't have a political ideology. He just has I am popular. I want to legitimize my popularity as a celebrity by going into something more serious like politics. But if you actually start asking me questions, I'm not going to give you an answer, because if I give you an answer, I start losing support. And actually, that interview itself, there are way more controversial subjects, and you should hear him talk about the more controversial ones. It's just like this, runs around in circles to basically not offend anyone, because he's doing this for popularity. And that's why you have to be really skeptical. Like, of course, celebrities are just like anyone else. Celebrities can be political. Celebrities can run for political office. I don't actually think there is a massive problem with that. But it really boils down to, do these celebrities want to run for political office based on a political ideology, their desire to change things, or are they doing it for a narcissistic reason? And you have lots of celebrities, I like Mark Ruffalo, Susan Sarandon I don't agree with everything on, but her heart's in the right place. There's a couple others as well. If Susan Sarandon said she was running for, I don't know, state senate, if she was running for Congress or something like that, I would take that seriously, because she has had an amazing career. She doesn't need any more credibility in terms of Hollywood, and she clearly cares about people. She cares about politics. So why not? I'm sure she'd have a good political career. I'm sure she'd be good in Congress and stuff like that. So I wouldn't totally rule out everyone. But if you're someone like Matthew McConaughey, Logan Paul, Mr. Beast, people who clearly love themselves, haven't really expressed much interest in politics, besides wanting to be president or governor, haven't expressed a political ideology, haven't really talked about what motivates them, especially with like e-celebs like Logan Paul, Mr. Beast, they've grown up online as celebrities, right? And from what I've heard, they didn't grow up in like abject poverty. They didn't grow up in a situation where like good morals and politics were instilled in them based on their environment and stuff, like you hear so much with certain politicians like AOC and others. It just seems like they want to do it to boost their brand even further. And I am a cynic, and the way Mr. Beast monetizes and makes charity content viral, please tell me in the comments, do you think he does this because he cares about America, he cares about people, or does he care about himself? And that is what unites these three. And like I said, plenty of celebrities across various different sports. Marcus Rashford, Man United striker, very good footballer, does a lot of good community work, does a lot of good political things, and has had political success in shaming the Tory government. He seemed like a good person. If he quit football tomorrow and ran for like the mayor of Manchester, I would take that seriously. Or even if he did that when he retired, I'd take that seriously. But when you haven't expressed a political opinion before you start talking about running for office, yeah, I'm not taking it seriously. And I also don't think you're doing it because you care about anything apart from yourself. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about celebrity and politics. Let me know what you think about these three idiots. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.